So we talk about several things, and mainly we talk about different types of conventional truth with a bunch of examples here. Okay, so Kevin, can you tell us what this picture represents here? Okay, so a lot of us in life, we mostly see things like this, right? We think that it's a river of light and they're continuous, okay? But in reality, these are not continuous at all. These are a bunch of cars during the nighttime with their headlights on, okay? So, well, what's the big deal about it, right? Now, it's not only the river of light, every single thing we see in life, whether it is your body, this screen, this wall, anything you see, or like that. It's just that because it is happening so quick, comes on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off so quick that we think things are continuous. We think things are there, but actually it's not. So that is what we call Santatikana or dilution of continuum. Okay, all right. What's the other example with the Matrix movie? How did they show about this dilution of continuum in Matrix? So if you want. Kind. Ricky. Okay, if you don't know it, that's fine. Who wanna answer this question? How did they show in Matrix movie about this dilution of continuance, about the wall and the human beings? It's right there. Thomas, try it. Okay, so because we're in computer age, right? We go by binaries, right? 0, 1, 0, 1, all these numbers, right? So that's what Matrix show you. Matrix look at it, Matrix does not see like you and I do, right? Let's imagine there are 3 guys standing, like him and I and him standing right here with the walls. Now, the walls are also binaries here. The floor is binary, the humans are binaries, right? So basically, if you break down anything, you can break it down to that level, right? But do we see that with our naked eye? We do not, right? That's what we call it. The same thing is the dilution of continuance or Santatikana. Now, when you meditate hard enough, right? Or at any point later down the line in future, our science is so advanced, then we might be able to see that with the help of some equipment. But till today, we don't see binaries. If I look at you, I don't see binaries. No matter what kind of equipment I wear, we don't see that yet. We might later down the line, I don't know. But what I do know is if you meditate hard enough, if you have the great concentration, that's how you will see. Okay. Now the other example is this. I want to answer this. What do you see here? Center, right? But these little tiny spots, the snowy spot, you see that if your television set is dying, right? So even though a lot of time television is good, you think that there's a good, beautiful image, but actually it's a combination of millions of pixels, right? Just like these little tiny dots there. Now, the same thing, our body is built with billions and billions of little tiny cells, okay? forming, disappearing, forming, disappearing, right? So again, that is the example of the Santitigana, right? The delusion of continuance. So what other delusions do we talk about here? So we have delusion of continuity or Santitigana here. What is delusion of mass? Williams.
So delusion of mass is you see something like a pencil, and then but in reality it's made up of like a lot of materials.
Good.
And pencil is like the base name, and then you can like go on farther like lead and graphite.
Good.
And that sort of stuff.
Very good. So a lot of time, whenever we say anything, something, we tend to see thing as a whole, one big thing. We never see broken down into different pieces or different parts, right? So I gave you that example of the phone. If you see a phone, if you hear the word phone, all you see is something like that, a kind of rectangular, okay, flat, something that you can use for playing games or calling someone, look at the weather, internet, this, that, right? We never see different pieces like this, right? So that basically is the delusion of mass, right? If I tell you a house, okay, you have the picture of the house, but you really don't see that picture of roof and the beams and the wood and the walls and windows and this and that, right? So that is the delusion of. What is delusion of function, Ted? Okay, very good. So delusion of function is we human being tends to register something. Okay, so for example, if I hear the voice of a pigeon, my brain already knows that's a pigeon. I already visualize the image of a pigeon in my brain, in my mind, right? I never think that's a sound wave coming, hitting my eardrum, right? So that's the delusion of function. Now, another example. Let me go back to the phone, right? When I say a phone, so when you think of the function, you think right away about, oh, I can make a call to my friend, or I can play games on it, right? I can look up internet, right? You never look at each and every piece function here. Okay, the function of this little transistor, the function of the screen, the function of this button, that button. Okay, so we tend to have this delusion of function called Keshav. And then we have delusion of senses. What are delusion of senses? When Kevin smells something from this plate, even if Kevin's blind, let's say I close Kevin's eyes, okay, and give this food to him. Does Kevin know that that's a noodle? Yes, he does. Okay, so yes, he does, right? So we never think that the scent, the smell molecule hitting receptor in our nose, right? So that is the delusion of senses. So we mostly live in all these 4 different types of delusion. That's what we call conventional truth, opinionative. Yeah.
Does it have to be smell, or does it have to be all 6 senses?
All 6 senses. Yeah. It can be what you see, it can be what you hear. Okay, all 6 senses. Very good. All right. So that's why movie. What did he say? Sarah, could you read that please again? If so whenever we smell, see, hear something, we never think about actually looking into these electrical signal touching the receptor, right? So matrix masonry go very deep in detail about understanding these conventional truths. So why is this important? Why is this important in our real life, day-to-day life? Why is that important in Buddhism to practice meditation and to be liberated? Well, let's start with why is that important in real life? Ricky. No, I'm talking about real life. Let's talk about the samsara and the Buddhism second part. First part, daily life. Why is this important? Rick, where? Good, very good. Very good. Yeah. So some of you want to go into medical field, right? And you have to take biology in high school, right? You have to take at least 2 classes. Then you really need to understand, let's say Thomas is a boy, right? In biology, is it enough knowing that Thomas is a boy? No, right? You really need to understand the different parts of the organs. Not only that, you need to really understand what each organ function for the whole body. What does the kidney do? What does the lungs do, right? How does the brain function? So that's basically breaking down understanding. Now, the smallest level, you got to understand to the level of DNA, right? To the electrons and protons and neutrons, and the smallest level you can do, the higher your understanding is. Then you get paid better, right? What's the difference between a medical assistant understanding of biology and anatomy and the understanding of a doctor? A medical assistant may understand hands and legs and the kidneys, but the medical assistant will not understand how does a kidney function, how the lung cells exchange oxygen and carbon dioxide, right? How does DNA function? What are the genetic diseases? Now, that's the real life application of breaking down these. Okay, so that's what we discussed. So we're going to go a little bit more this week. All right, that's what we talk about. Okay. Now, this piece I didn't discuss that much last week. So we talk about 4 types of conventional truth, and out of that there is the dilution of function called Keisakana. Now, we subdivide more of the Keisakana into 4 different subcategories. One is the characteristics called Lakkhana. Next is rasa called function. Next is manifestation or materialization called Pisupatthana. And next is the main cause or proximate cause called Padattana. Repeat after me. The reason why you need to understand the Pali is when we get to the samsara level or the meditation level, you need to understand these Pali words. Okay, so repeat after me. Lakkhana, Rasa, Peshupatana, Padatana, Lakkhana, Rasa, Peshupatana, Padatana. So mainly characteristic, function, materialization, or manifestation, or the main cause or proximate cause. So just to make you have a little bit of figurative understanding, here is the little flow chart. So we have the Vignette or conventional truth, and we have the delusion of continuum, delusion of mass, delusion of function, delusion of sense entity as a whole. So Sansatikana, Samuhagana, Kesagana, Aramanagana. All right, those of you who haven't memorized, I need you to memorize these names. All right, because when we get to advanced level, this will be beneficial for you. Okay, so delusion of continuum, mass, function, and sense entity, Sansati, Samuha, Kesha, and Aramana. Now, the Keshakana subdivided, the one that I just explained to you, Lakkhana, Rasa, Peshupatana, Padatana. And then there is another deeper level, which is advanced. Lakkhana can be subdivided into Sabhava Lakkhana and Samanya Lakkhana. Sabhava Lakkhana is a natural, unique, or individual characteristic, and Samanya Lakkhana is common characteristic. I'll explain to you later, right? Just try to visualize this flow chart, okay? Later, you'll need this chart. All right, let's look into the example of this. All right. Now, giving the example, all of you know what a computer is, right? There are different parts of computer. There are so many pieces, so many parts, but in general, we can subdivide it into 5, right? Again, I'll repeat, it's in general. So number 1, input devices. So as you can see, input devices are all these, right? A lot of you will be using keyboard, right? Or touchpad. You may not have keyboard, and like, for example, your iPad may not have a keyboard, but you can touch the screen and type it in, right? That's an input device, right? But there are so many. You have a mouse, you have a barcode reader, joystick, touch panel. All of these are input devices, right? What are the input devices for your body? Your 6 sense organs are input devices, right? All these senses come to you, right? You get a smell. That's the input coming. Oh, good smell. Oh, horrible smell. No, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. So input devices. And then through that devices, you input the information, because computer is a computer, right? Computer is not a human being like you and I. Computer just gives you the information based on the information that you put in. Have you ever heard of garbage in, garbage out? No? So computer is just a machine. If I type gibberish, right? I just play on this keyboard, what will show up? Gibberish, right? So that's the garbage. So I put in garbage stuff, computer will give me garbage. I put in great information, I write a beautiful sentence, what will it give me? A beautiful sentence.
The definition of a computer is something that can take input and put output and like something in store memory and process. Which is why humans are computers.
All right, so what's the difference between a computer and a human? So I can tap a computer. Can I tap you?
Yes, you're tapping me right now.
How do you feel? Computer doesn't complain.
In mine.
All right, so very good. So we have input devices, we put in information through those devices. And as William mentioned, we have memory or whatever we store the information, right? Then after this, we get an output. Now, one other good thing is based on what we put in, the computer has a memory to remember the sequence of whatever information you put in, right? You can code a virus, yes, definitely. So that's in general. Of course, we're simplifying it. The computer has a lot more things to it, right? So let's look at it. Let's look at the computer from this dilution that we just learned. So when you look at the computer from the Sensatikana standpoint or dilution of continuum. So if you look at a computer, what you see is just a kind of rectangular, sometimes maybe square, right? Black, white, whatever color it may be, right? And you see that, oh, it's just an instrument to compute. That's why we call it computer, right? Now, dilution of mass, we say like just a mass. And as a function, we say it's for computation. Sorry, I dropped an I. Okay. Well, unfortunately, the census computer is not a living thing. The computer does not have. Average computer does not have census. But later down the line, when we talk about AI, advanced AI, then the machines, there are machines today that actually can sense some smell. Okay. But so far, majority of the computers that you use day in and day out does not have this function yet. They will be able to hear things. For example, your Alexa at home, is it a go? When you say, Alexa, turn off the light, does she hear you? Yeah. Is that a human being? Is it your girlfriend sitting at the corner of the house, a little black box? No, she hear you, right? Now, we do have AI so advanced that they can actually sense smells, right? We'll talk about that later. But for now, for the simplicity of the class, let's imagine this computer that we're talking about does not have this yet. Okay, so now, if we're talking about conventional truth, we're just seeing these, right? But if we break it down, we can break it down to the case not to this. So now look at the color. What does red stand for? Let's introphyllite. Stop. Something not good. Some danger, right? So conventional truth is not the level of truth that we want. We want something deeper, right? When you get to little yellow, right? You're breaking down, but not quite there yet, right? We break down more. Now we get to know Lakana characteristic of each part, right? Instead of the whole computer, oh, I know the keyboard is an input device, right? Oh, I have a screen. Oh, I can put in this information. Let's say I rip it apart. Look at it. Oh, there's a little sound box there. There's a memory chip there. There's a processor there, right? If I can break that down of each, right, I will know the characteristic of each part. I will know the function of each part, right? Now, after this, what kind of effect does it get? By combining the memory piece and processor piece, they function together, they spit out all these images, right? Or they compute the math homework for me, right? Then how do they do that? What's the cost of becoming this? Now, if you understand a little deeper, right? Now you will become smarter and smarter. Okay. Now that's the daily use of still conventional truth, right? Now, just because conventional truth doesn't mean that it's wrong. We really need to know conventional truth. Only after that we can get to the ultimate truth, right? If you want to be a computer specialist, a programmer, you need to know these, right? Step by step. So only then, let's say you're someone who's interested in computer engineering, right? You have so many different specialties that you can do. I listed only 10, there are gazillion others, right? So you can be hardware engineer, right? Meaning they know only about the hardware. You guys know what the hardwares are, right? Yeah, and you can be a software engineer. You can be a database engineer, data security, big data mining, application, web development. There are so many, right? So, but for you to be able to become one of these, you really need to break it down. You just can't say, I know how to turn on a computer and I know how to type. I know how to surf the web. I know how to play games. Is that not for you? No. So if you just know how to open it and how to use it, basically you're at the red level. All you know is just a conventional level, right? But you need to know deeper and deeper and deeper. The deeper you go, the smarter you will be, the better you will be, and you can learn a job, right? So, all right, now we're gonna go into a little higher because we're learning Buddhism. We wanna apply that concept to our body, right? The Buddhism is nothing but learning about the nature, right? And applying to your life. So let's resemble our body and a computer. So we just talked a little bit about it. So input devices for us are what? Our six senses. What about memory? Our brain. What part of the brain has memory? Frontal lobe? What else? Right brain. There are so many pieces, right? So we'll talk about that. And all right, so our body, six sense organs, right? We have similar to input devices. Now we have feeling or experience, whether that be good experience, good feeling, bad feeling, sad, angry, happy, whatever feeling you have. Now, those are the similar to input information. Then we have first memory, right? A lot of you remember memory from this morning or recently. You sang, cut the cake, had fun with other friends, right? You remember yesterday. Some of you remember even when you were very little, right? So that's the first memory. So the same thing as our computer memory, right? Then we have the effect, the output. Depending on what information or what memory you have the output. And then based on all this, you have the newly formed memory too, right? So one computer has 5 parts. Our body, goal of practicing meditation, also has 5 parts called Rupa, okay, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, and Vijnana. Again, these are at the red levels on the top, what we call aggregate, okay? In Pali, we call it Khanda, okay? So repeat after me. Rupa Khanda, Vedana Khanda, Sanya Khanda, Sankhara Khanda, Vijnana Khanda. All right, so don't worry about it yet. I will repeat that in the next slide. So these are similar things between a computer and our body. All right. So since we're talking about the similarities and the difference between a computer and our body, mainly brain, what's the difference? Now, computer has processors. Our brain is a processor too, right? Our brain processes information. The brain processing relatively to computer in a lot of time is slow. Meaning, if I ask you to multiply 2,388 with 4,235, will you get the answer? Will the computer get the answer? Yes, right? So in that sense, computer is faster, right? In that sense, you are processing the simple information. Computer can process complex information. Now, what is confusing is how come we say here our brain can process many and computer can process few? Why is that? Because our brain process a lot of information. While I'm talking, I'm looking at you, right? I'm listening to those students from online, right? Meanwhile, my body is also sensing my weighted muscle on my left foot rather than the right. My back's a little tense. So I am processing so much information. Does computer do that? No. Computer just waiting. The moment that you put in that information, those numbers, you hit enter, boom. That's all computer does, right? So that's what I mean by computer can process only few information at a given certain moment in time. But whereas our brain processes many, okay? Okay, very good question. So that's where you need more and more power, right? When you mine a Bitcoin, how much power do you need? A lot of power, right? Why? The Bitcoin is not the much, it's the computational or so many mathematical problems that you have to solve. Then they will spit out a coin for you, right? Then you need a bigger computer. You have thought about mainframe computer, right? You have thought about Watson computer, right? So those are the big, huge, gigantic computer can process gazillion information at one time. Now, because the computers are becoming so advanced, then we can now make robots which can talk, which can sense, right? It's out there now, right? It is called AI. All right. So when we look at the memory, right? So our brain integrated in processor content is addressable. Now the memory in a computer is separate. Now our brain compute parallel. Now, just like I just explained, while I'm doing one thing, our brain tried to get the input from so many things, right? Looking at Sophia Wen, playing with her hands like this. Again, listening to here, looking at you. Whereas the computer is sequential, meaning one at a time, boom, 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 right? Now, reliability, our brain is robust, graceful degradation. Computer is fragile and brittle, meaning that the computer, depending on what kind of computer we're talking about, right? If we're talking about mainframe computer or Western computer, that they also function quite a lot, right? So when we look at a brain on a computer, so the computing wins in input and output devices. Okay, and information processing and memory. They're very similar in complex movement, vision, language, structure, problem solving. Now, what the computer can still not do that well today, it may change later. It's already changed to a certain level. Computer cannot create as much yet, but today there are computers that can program a program. For example, that you're playing today, you need a human being, a programmer, to write the program for you, right? But today the computers are so advanced that a computer can write a program, will write another program for you. So becoming more and more advanced. Yes, Thomas. Say it again. The brain is better than the computer still in these. The creativity, emotion, and empathy. So for today, our robots cannot feel, cannot have empathy or emotion as much yet, right? Planning and executive function and consciousness. So brain is still better today. But again, I will repeat again and again, because of the AI, artificial intelligence, things are changing. Any question? No? All right. So mastering our mind will master our life, because the mind basically eventually will control everything, right? So when we now, you have seen these words before too. I taught you about 3 weeks ago. We have ultimate truth. So what we have been talking about is conventional truth, right? Now we have the ultimate truth, the truth that can lead to liberation, the truth that can take us out of this samsara, the cycle of suffering. Now we have Sita, Sita, Rupa, and Nibbana. Okay, those of you who missed the class, just remember this. This is Sita, me, our consciousness, in plain layman term, mind. Sita, me, the mental factors. Our mind itself is very clean, pure, crisp. But when we're angry, happy, joy, whatever, then that's because of our mental factor called Sita. And we have our body, which is Rupa. Nibbana is the liberation from all these. Now, this level is also still considered not the real parameter yet. Because yeah, I know my mind, I have a mind. I have a body. Am I liberated now? No, right? Then everybody will be liberated. Everybody knows that we all have a mind, right? So just by understanding that, oh, there are 4 parameters, Sita, Sika, Rupa, and Nibbana. Good, I'm a Buddhist, I'm liberated. That's not how it works, right? So that's why the state, the color is yellow. But now, you have seen this recently on recent slide. Now, the Sita, the mind, is the aggregate of Vijnana Khana. Now, if we go back, you remember this, just like a part of computer, Vijnana is the newly formed memory, which is energy. Okay, let me go back. That's our mind here. Now, the mental factors are the experience of feelings, Vedana Khanda, the memory, Sanya Khana, the reactions or output, Sankara Khana. Rupa is our body, the bodily aggregate, Rupa Khana. Now, When you get to this level, you understand it a little better. For us to meditate, you slowly need to understand these, nothing else. In Buddhism, when you look at your body and mind, you can subdivide these into these levels, all right? The mind, mental factors, your body, and the liberation, right? Which you don't have to focus on. You focus on these three, this will come automatically. And you just subdivide the Cetasika into Vedana, Sanya, and Sankara, basically the feeling or experience, the memory, and the output or reaction. All right. Now, if you recall, this started when we talk about second thing in Buddhism, which is a two-level truth. Okay, which is what truth and what truth? Conventional truth and ultimate truth. In Pali, how do we call conventional truth? Panyati, ultimate truth, Paramattha, right? Now, if you just know conventional truth, you are never going to be close to liberation, right? You can be a doctor. I'm a doctor. I know biology a lot more than you do. Just because I know cells and diseases to the smallest level, DNA level, proton level, neutron level, then do you think I'm free from suffering? Like I have no sadness, anger? No, I'm angry with my kids all the time, ask them, right? Do I feel scared when I watch the scary movie? Yes, right? So no matter how advanced I am, if all I'm knowing is this conventional truth, I'm never going to be close to this liberation, right? It doesn't mean I shouldn't be a doctor. I still need to know the conventional truth very well so that I can make a decent living, right? So that my life is smooth. Nobody want to be homeless, right? You need to go to school, you need to educate yourself so well to a point that you really know from the conventional truth level very deeply to this level too, right? But again, for you to be liberated, you gotta know this level of ultimate truth, these Cetasika Rupa, how these aggregate or kanda, you gotta break it to Santatikana. So let's say you look at your mind, your consciousness, you should be able to break your consciousness or your mind into this Santatikana, Sambhuvakana, Kesakana, and Aramanakana. Okay, so basically it means that the Vijnana Kana, you should be able to break this down to all these levels. Okay, so even if you're talking about, you know what, forget about my daily life. I am going to shave my head and wear a robe like Pumpo here, right? Can he get rid of this side? No, he cannot. Because let's say you meditate on your mind. How? You meditate on your mind so deeply to a level that you can see and divide your mind into these. You break your mind, breaking down the delusion of continuum, breaking down the delusion of mass, breaking down the delusion of function, breaking down the delusion of senses as a compact entity. Then also you look at the lakkhana, the characteristic, the function, manifestation, and the proximate cause of the mind. All right, so this, a lot of Buddhists have a misunderstanding that, oh, you know, conventional truths, forget about it, we Buddhists don't like. That is a wrong concept, right? You really need to know and understand the conventional truth, right? And practice on it, then lead to the ultimate truth. Now, so this actually is a better diagram, a flow chart. So you start from here, the conventional truth go up, or even if you're a monk, right? I don't care about making money. I don't care about getting married. All I do is focus on meditation, practice meditation. Still, what you focus is your mind, your mental factors, your body. But how? A computer, just like the computer has 5 parts, our mind and body has these 5 parts, right? Now these, you're gonna go through breaking down these ganat. Okay, only then, going back here. So the Rupta Khanda, just like you know each and every input devices very well, right? For example, if you have a barcode that you need to scan, can you put that barcode on this keyboard and, hey, keyboard, read this barcode for me? Will it work? No, right? You have a scanner. Hey, scanner, send this for me. Will it work? It won't, right? So the same thing, you definitely need to understand your body, right? As you understand very well about your computer input devices. Now, you also need to understand what kind of input you need to put in, right? You need to understand your feelings, right? That's called Vedana Khanda. You need to understand about your memory, because our sanya or our best memory is the one that is giving you problem. I have given you this example before, right? I'll give you 2 examples. One is when I was little, I was 3rd grade, right? My dad took me to a funeral. I didn't know. That was a funeral of a little kid about my age, right? So my dad just said, hey, let's go check. That's his friend's son. I didn't know the kid, but I went there. I was so shocked, right? A little kid of my size, dead in the coffin. But what is more astounding is that I got a smell. My brain registers that smell, and I forget about it, right? I had a little nightmare for a few days, but I forgot about it. When I finished my high school, before my college, it was back home. I went to British Council. So one of the professors came in. She wore a cologne, a perfume. A lot of people like it, but I started freaking out. Because by then, I knew, because my friend told me that what she was wearing is a very expensive perfume from France. Very expensive. But what did my brain register? That's the smell of the dead little kid in the coffin. So the moment that I get that smell, all I see is not my professor. All I see is that little kid. I have a flashback to the point that I had to leave the class, right? That's basically is the memory. Now, will the computer do that? Not really, right? But our brain will do that, right? Now, I'll give you a story from the Buddhist scripture. So there was a group of travelers. They got lost. Suddenly, they found a little village in the middle of the desert. So they went in, nighttime, no light. They were very hungry. So the villagers are so nice, they give them the food. They ate so much and so good, so delicious. It's a type of soup. They think that's a noodle soup. So they ate and they slept well. Next day they wake up. So they said, what did you guys feed us last night? It's so delicious. Said, oh, do you like it? Yeah, we do. Can we get more? Sure. They give it to them. Guess what? Nope. Worms. So you see, they eat warmth as delicacy, right? But for them, because they're so hungry and it's dark, so they ate with the thought that it's a noodle soup. But it turned out to be the warm soup. So guess what happened? They started throwing up. But do you think all these worms will come back out after the whole night's sleep? No, right? But how come last night they were so happy and eating so good and so delicious? Suddenly, the moment that they know that those are the worms, why did they start throwing up? This is because of their past memory, right? Just like I had a flashback for that cologne perfume that I attached my memory with the child's death, right? Even though it's a very expensive perfume, right? So because of that memory, we always go into trouble, right? For example, go ahead, Thomas, you have a question?
So if I put words to my ramen, what is it?
Do you know that the Chinese eat those worms? It's some part of the China. They actually breed these like about this size of the worms. They actually eat them alive. Okay, you can look it up. So it's totally up to you if you want to eat those, your choice. But I wouldn't. All right. So now the same thing. Our brain, our body is very similar to a computer, right? So we have this past memory. Then based on that memory, I react, right? The flashback that I had, what I had to step out of the classroom, that was my reaction, right? The Sankara. Now, based on all these, I have a new phone memory, right? Now, here I didn't say initially, the computer today can call what we call adaptive AI. Now, our brain can already do this. What we call adaptive artificial intelligence. What I mean by that is our brain is so smart that I have memory from the past, I have a new experience today, I combine that, I form another memory for my future use, right? Now, for example, the moment that I figure out, that's not the smell of a dead little kid. That's the smell of a very expensive perfume. Now, next time I get that perfume, my flashback's a little less. I still have some, but a little less, right? Now, that's similar to adaptive AI. Now, these days, the computer can do that too, right? There are dog robots, which can actually chase a criminal. That dog robot, all that robot knows is to get that smell molecule, and the robot has a receptor. They will just chase that. That's all that robot knows, right? Now, our body is way advanced than that, okay? Now, when we meditate only on these 5, okay? Now, of course, how we meditate is to break it down, all these khanda or aggregate, the Vijnana khanda, Vedana khanda, Sanya khanda, Sankara khanda, and Rupa khanda. So start with our body, here Rupa khanda, the memory here, right? Our reaction here, Sankara, our Vedana, our experience of feeling here, and then our mind here. Now, we break this down, these ultimate truth, breaking down into these kana, only then we will be liberated, okay? So for what we discussed today is 2 things. One is you really need to understand in your daily life, whatever profession you want to go into, whether you want to go into computer, medical, lawyer, art, science, whatever it may be, you really need to break it down, right? Later down the line, if you ever want to practice meditation, right? If you ever become, I believe in samsara, I want to be liberated, you're gonna go through the same birth with this little twist of different parts of computer similarity to these, what we call kanda, right? Then you'll get to the liberation. Now, the reason why I'm teaching you this is we're going to go even deeper to what we call Abhidhamma. Now, if you don't understand this concept, you are not going to understand deeper concept of the Abhidhamma, right? In Abhidhamma, we actually break it down, Sita, into these. We break down our mind into 89 pieces, all right? We break down our Siddhika into 52 pieces. We break down our Rupa into 28 pieces. Even now we can break it down, right? So just like if you go into programming, you have so many programming languages, right? You have so many steps. And the same thing, if you want to master this parameter or ultimate truth of your body and mind, you're gonna break these down, okay? Only then you will be able to understand the concept of Buddhism. If not, Buddhism will be just a philosophy. And as I explained to you before, Buddhism is not a philosophy, Buddhism is a practice, but that practice, you can do it only when you understand these concepts, right? Okay, we're going to end here tonight. Okay.